So, Dr. Learn, we wanted to take a moment to sit here and chat with you about Ray and I's parent campaign going for vice president for ASWTC. We just wanted to have a little chat of what we're up to, what you think about it, maybe some other ways we could help out faculty as well.
Oh, great. Thank you for having me.
Right? You have anything you want to say before we get into this?
Thanks for coming.
Of course.
So, first thing we have on the list was, what are some ways we as ASWTC, the anti-submarine, as ASWTC is a mouthful to say, can be more collaborative with faculty and help foster more connections for our students?
All right, so I am going to have to wrap everything I say around sort of a disclaimer.
Oh, for
They're
sure.
just my personal opinions and aren't meant to get the RFO, which I am a member of but do not represent, or the administration committed to any sort of activities like that. So, but we certainly, as the RFO, in my experience, and faculty in general, and once again in my experience, definitely can look to the ASW, the associated students, for various things. Specifically, there are a lot of times where certain changes will be happening on campus, or certain things are being piloted. Like there was the one WSU several years ago, and it was being discussed. And a lot of action was, going to be taken on that. I don't know. I was not aware of how the students were involved in that. So if the faculty can be made aware of what the students' collective position is on something like that, then we can work together as we agree on things. A particular example that I'm quite interested in, that was going somewhere and that wasn't, was essentially summer classes, and when the actual summer term would start. As you know, right now probably it happens the week after finals of the spring semester, which does not give anyone time to do anything or get together. And so that was going to be changed. They're going to push it back a week, and maybe the students would like that. I don't know. I assume maybe, but it was going to be changed, and then it wasn't. And I don't know that if the students had a strong position on that, it was voted. So definitely, there should be certainly liaisoning happening at the campus level and at the faculty senate and just general ASWSU. And so, if the WSU faculty and students are pushing for something, then we can go to faculty senate, you can go to that. We can push it in parallel.
Yeah. For sure.
That kind of thing would be, more beneficial than us just working independently. Which is not to say we're going to agree on everything, but if there are opportunities for collaboration, I think we should take advantage of those.
We mentioned senators collecting research info from faculty prior conversations. Is there anything that would be helpful from that information that would be helpful?
I mean, it's nominally my job to know all the undergraduate research opportunities, which part of that would be knowing what the research happening on campus is. But I'm only one person. I can only do so much at any given time. So any sort of parallel structures that you guys want to build and publicize and make available to students and other people will benefit the rest of the campus as well. Right? You guys bring people in to have to give speeches. There was an event that I think the Makers Club had, or the 3D printing one. That's not just for students, right? That's beneficial to faculty were at that, staff were at that, right? So any kind of things that you do that should bring general benefit to the campus are going to benefit the faculty as well, right? So if you guys build a list of all the research that's happening on campus, or if you built a list of every professor's office hours, crowdsourced office hours, if I need to talk to a certain professor, it might be easier for me to look at that list than send an email and wait for a response. But if I know they're going to be in that office, then I can go find them, as opposed to poking my head around and it's empty, So those are kind of crowdsourced efforts that you guys can build, proliferate around the campus. I think would be fantastic, right? And we try to do that as our vote to another, as well. But once again, there's only so many people active in that, that a lot of things have been left undone. I want to get a list of every committee on campus. Because committees are making decisions, or making recommendations at the very least. And I'm not sure which ones those are, when they're meeting, and who's on them. So, there's a lot of information out there that it's not being hidden. It's just everyone's so busy that it gets lost in
the waves of it all.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that like we really wanted to focus on is actually getting a nice centralized location for all that information.
A clearinghouse is what we call that.
Yeah.
Information clearinghouse. Yeah.
Because so I was on SNA committee this year. Those are public meetings, and a lot of students didn't even know what was going on there.
Yeah.
And so
it would be great. Like, I've been at some point connected as the front desk, my phone line in my office. I was getting people looking for random people, and so if the students can play some role in getting a clearinghouse created, if there could even be a front-facing just person whose job it is to direct you to the right person on campus. We don't really have that right now. There's no campus front desk.
Yeah.
Where you call if you don't know who to call. If the students could play some role in creating something like that, or even funding a position like that, that would be really cool and helpful. And I wouldn't have to look up people's, I've gotten extensions, people calling, and I'm looking for so-and-so. I'm like, well, I'm not who you're looking for, and it's not my job to connect you to them, but I've got my computer ready here. I'll give it a
You're
try.
hired here to teach, not to be a secretary.
Yeah, and I don't mind helping, but if that's something that's needed, there should be somebody doing it.
For sure.
Yeah.
This one's a bit off the cuff,
Yeah.
but because you mentioned it a bit ago. So one of the things we'd be really interested in is bringing more community events onto campus.
Yeah.
What are some cool events that you've seen here in the Tri-Cities that you think would be a really nice thing to bring here?
See, that's interesting because I don't like doing things, and so I'm not sure I have a. So there's one example. I know that CBC, which is a community college, as it's named by Trey, they have a planetarium, and they have planetarium days and such. We don't have that, and I don't imagine we'll get $1.5 million to build one anytime soon. But we do have a physics club who's building a telescope right now, and so if we could have I'm going to do a star tour event where I guide people with the telescopes that we bring onto campus, and we could essentially take a tour around the night sky once that telescope is built. So that's an educational event, but it would also be open to the community. We have the native plant garden up there. If we brought some of the we've got plenty of biologists who know a lot about botany or plant pathology or whatever. If we brought some of them here to essentially do a walk through the riverfront trail, identifying plants and such. It's neat. It's educational. It's cheap.
Yeah. Brings people together.
Yeah. It hits all the high points.
When is the estimated date of completion for that telescope, by the way?
2030.
That's if NASA renews the funding. Since the loss of the space shuttle, it's been a bit touch and go. But I don't know. They're all going to graduate the next year or so. Before that, most of them should graduate.
So what you're saying is, if it doesn't get completed, students have a good incentive to come back for a post-grad.
Yeah, I mean, they got $800 to build it from you guys, so.
From directly?
Not from you personally, but from the student activities. It's a club. Yeah, it's a club. That's enough to build a telescope.
Yeah.
800? Yeah.
Yeah, that should be enough.
Yeah. That's enough to buy a telescope. That'll be enough to build one.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. No, they're making progress on it. Yeah. I also want to do a pumpkin chunkin.
Pumpkin chunkin?
Yeah, are you familiar with that? I'd like the Makers Club, the Physics Club, and the Mechanical Engineering Club to compete to build trebuchets that shoot pumpkins the most accurately. I will put a $1,000 prize up for the team that produces the most accurate pumpkin launching device. I don't know that we can do that, full disclaimer, because building trebuchets and shooting pumpkins out of them on campus has safety implications that will need to be cleared with, environmental health and safety. But certain universities do it, and I don't see why we couldn't use that big empty field over there to launch pumpkins around in October.
I believe the Pullman campus drops pumpkins off of a 15-story building.
Okay.
So
yeah, well, we're better than that. So
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that building trebuchets and shooting pumpkins is way more exciting and arguably safer
Ben dropping.
Nah, you know, it's not our job to think about that. It's environmental health and safety.
Exactly.
You know, and I think the physics club wants to build a ballista as opposed to a trebuchet because of the you know, the scaling of the
Definitely
power.
The ballista a lot farther than can lobby.
Yeah.
Can you? I don't know.
Trebuchets are made to go. This is like totally off topic.
Oh no, go for it.
Trebuchets are mainly made slingy. They're
Yeah.
meant for somewhat shorter, medium to shorter range of CGA capsule. While the ballista, you can have almost a straight shot with a drop.
Yeah, I think Age of Empires 2 statistics would disagree with
You know, Age of Empires would disagree with
Yeah,
me.
we should run some calculation. If there only were a club whose goal was to compute physics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to play Age of Empires. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, something like that would be
Pending
approval.
approval, what has been stopping this event from coming
The
about?
fact I hadn't thought of it until last week.
We have a theory until fall.
Yeah.
It'd be very topical.
No.
No.
If people would come out and watch, you should publish it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. High schoolers can come. Yeah.
We have a whole winter fest, like fall fest. Why not include the annual pumpkin?
First annual pumpkin chunkin. Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down. I just make sure we don't forget it.
I don't know if it's trademarked. I think it's been used before. It wasn't my idea, but they've been doing this for years out east. There's a catapult category and a pneumatic cannon category. We're not going to introduce any pneumatic cannon stuff because those can go quite far.
Okay.
I don't want the FAA or Hanford Security chasing me down.
I would say I feel like that also sounds like it has a big risk of breaking. and
Yeah, and then
having-
you have a catastrophic
Exactly.
compression of it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We'll get the seniors to do that one,
Sure.
if possible.
Right.
Yeah.
As long as we've got their last tuition check, I'm sure the university doesn't care.
Exactly.
What are some important happenings within faculty that you think would be important for your students to know?
So, I mean, there's always new initiatives, new strategic plans going on. Hires are being done. Sometimes there are reorganizations where they'll take arts and sciences and split it up and put it back together. There's always something like that happening. At the moment, a lot of our discussion is related to course scheduling and course offerings. Yeah, because the administration wants to ensure that the students are getting access to all the courses they want and need and will take. Well, the faculty, you know, have their own preferences on what they want to teach. Right? So there's going to need to be an alignment at a certain point with what the faculty want to teach and what needs to be taught and when it needs to be taught. And so I think the students can actually play a bigger role in that than they think, because if we know you guys want to take a class, we will offer it because we want you to get that credit. We want you to generate those credit hours for us, right? And this is something you could once again work on in parallel. If you know that there are 15 people that really want to take this class that is only offered once every 3 years or once in a blue moon, that's enough to run it. And so you can help, you know, especially in like the summer term, get that course on the schedule that otherwise wouldn't be, right? The other thing is just to let administration know when you want to take your classes, right? Do you like those 4-hour blocks between your 1 p.m. class and that 5 or 6 p.m. class? Right, and a lot of times they do know things like that are suboptimal, and they do the best they can with whatever teaching resources they have in terms of adjuncts. But other times they don't. You know, there is not a knowledge of, you know, what courses you want. The other thing is, and this is not as relevant if you're going to stay around, but if you're not going to be retaining these students, we want to retain students. So if there are reasons that you might not be here in the subsequent semesters, apart from graduating, if you're graduating, great. But you know, if there are reasons that you might not come back next semester, you need to at some point let administration know, let your advisor know why that is, so we can fix that problem. If it's because the courses aren't being offered, if it's because the courses are too hard, or you don't like the style of the courses, that information needs to be collected somewhere so that you can fix that problem. And right now, I don't know that that's happening as much as it could be.
I think at most we have the end of semester blue book evaluations, but
Right.
even still, that's not
Right, that doesn't-
quantitative of.
Those are anonymized, and we don't know. There's no connection between retention, right?
Mhm.
Just because you had a bad experience in class doesn't mean you're going to be retained or not.
Exactly.
So definitely, make sure that your voice in terms of what's working on campus and what isn't working on campus related to faculty and course offerings and the schedule is being heard, right? And if you want to use the currently existing structures for that, as informal as they are, that's fine. If you want to build alternative structures for that so that they're more centrally housed and rigorously collected, that would also be fine. And that you guys might not have as much trouble as that talking to students about what their issues are than the faculty and the administration do.
Yeah.
I ask the students all the time in my class, "You all got that?" And the answer is yes. And then during the exam, they do not have it.
Yeah.
They haven't gotten that. So students on students, peer commentary, peer information will actually be more accurate.
For sure. And I would even say within the 9 days they've had us campaign, we've gotten a couple messages about web development coming to campus.
Yeah.
Web development, and possible software engineering.
That would be good. Yeah. Cybersecurity for sure is here.
I have a question regarding what you said about hiring
Yeah.
new professors. Do you think students should be playing a role in that, like seeing what professors
Playing a role? Absolutely. Yeah. And the specifics of that role, I think, is somewhat complicated. Like personally, I wouldn't mind a student on a hiring committee, but I don't know that has a lot of HR, legal, compliance ramifications that I can only begin to speculate. Maybe it's possible, maybe it isn't. I wouldn't oppose it if it were possible, but I can certainly imagine why it might not. But I have a committee that I'm chairing right now. We're going to have teaching demos for the full camp finals that come next week. As soon as I get everybody's flights confirmed, I'm going to announce when those teaching demos will be, and I will invite students to that. And they'll fill out culture surveys like I did for the physics hire last year. And so the committee will look at those responses, and if the students say, "I cannot learn from this professor, I can't understand them, they go too quickly, they don't stop and get feedback," that will be important information for us to consider. Because, the hiring committee is all computer science adjacent. We can understand what the candidate is saying just fine. But if somebody who hasn't seen the material before, that's the real test, right? The teaching test. So student feedback should certainly be solicited at the very least, and more involvement as possible, as legal and allowed, would also be great.
Typically, when those teaching presentations happen, what is the method used to inform the students?
So that's a good question. Right now, it's very informal. I will shoot an email out to all the relevant faculty and say, "Here's a teaching talk by a candidate. Please come and invite your students." Right? And so I'm delegating that responsibility on to, say, the computer science professors, and they'll put a slide up in class, maybe. Oh, they won't. There was a cybersecurity talk today. It was a research talk, not my search. But it's a candidate that's maybe going to be hired here for cybersecurity. There was one on Friday as well. I didn't have time to announce that to the relevant students because my computer science students are Tuesday, Thursday. So, it's that's not the best system necessarily, but it's currently the system we've got because the professors who are running these committees can't necessarily be doing 1,000 things at once. Like I'm booking these flights, and I'm not booking them, but I'm talking to the candidates about the flights they want, sending it to the HR, who's sending it to the travel person, and so I've sent probably 150 emails throughout the course of this search. 30 of those probably this past week. So I don't want to be sending out another 5 or 6 trying to get it onto the boards here. I don't want to email Marcom and say, "Can you put this flyer up for me?" I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
I got midterms. I'm still waiting to grade.
Yeah.
His linear algebra exam is waiting to be graded in my office.
Fear in that exam's eyes.
As long as it was you, it was it that was afraid, not you.
It was both of us.
Oh, good.
You can spell each other's fear.
Yeah.
I remember linear not being too horrendous. So,
You didn't have it with me though.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
Okay. But no, I do think you bring up a good point of it's hard to get feedback in when you have to do all the communication yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I have a lot of friends who are trying to go into that new cybersecurity major that we're bringing in next year, and this is the first time I'm hearing about this topic. And I think that students do get a lot of benefit from just hearing a lot of research classes in general.
Oh yeah, which is why I try to organize those.
Yeah.
Right? We haven't had one this semester yet because I'm busy with this sheet and everything else. But yeah, you know.
What are some things you'd like to see here on campus?
We got the food truck right now, and I think that's a big win. Right? And I recommend everybody buying tacos. They are good, they are cheap, you know.
I drive 45 minutes away. I live in Mapton.
Yeah.
Compared to where I always get my tacos, that's a little more expensive.
Sure. Look, I'm paying $4 for lunch today.
Fair.
That's not pricey for eating out. Yeah.
That's
So buy the tacos because they'll come back if they're making money, and they won't if they're not. I don't know how well much. I don't know if we're subsidizing them in any way.
We are not.
That's good.
Yeah.
Hopefully that can be self-sustaining then.
Mm-hmm.
So having food on campus, I don't know, you know, we've got the bus. I don't know if rotating them in, bringing one in on a Monday, one in on Thursday, might be, you know.
I heard an interesting idea from one of the students where we can turn that big lot into just drinks.
A food truck court like
A
the
food
hub.
truck court like the hub.
I don't know that there is. Maybe, you know, there's Hanford there, there's P&L. There's a possibility to that, but you would need to probably hire some consultants to do a market analysis to see if that, because there was an ethos up by P&L that closed.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people up here, but we don't know if they'll come eat them. We certainly can do a food truck day and publicize it and let P&L and Hanford know that, hey, they're going to be 8 food trucks here that day and see what the turnout is. You know, these things do have to be financially self-sustaining. There's no magic money tree, to my knowledge.
And that's the point too, is that I know that P&L does have like Food Truck Friday, but they just don't really have a big community partner that's just like inviting outside.
Well, part of that is that P&L is only like a semi-open campus. It's
Yeah.
an open campus in that you don't, like I worked at LLNL, and they badged you and they had machine guns. You didn't have a badge for looking at the machine guns.
Yeah.
Right? P&L's not like that.
They let you walk around outside for the
Yeah,
most part.
right. But I would be uncomfortable going to P&L for lunch because I don't know if I'm going to get hassled by not having a badge. Right? Even if it was at a food truck or some such. I don't know if I can go to their farmer market. They have a farmer market in the summer. Can I go? I have no idea. It's on a government lab.
Yeah.
So,
And, I mean, I know personally, I would really love to have more of those community connections. Like, I know that Hanford, like just right next door, have a bazaar that goes on every often. I think it'd be cool to publicize that on campus. Or even like let our students know more about the plays they have. I think it'd be good. I haven't done it.
I would certainly say that we're not divorced from the community. We're not as involved as we could. I wish that we were viewed as sort of the local community of scholars for the Tri-Cities area. So if someone's having problems with, say, fertilizer or wildlife, or has any question, there'd be someone they could come to here that would refer them to the right person who would help them solve those problems, maybe turn them into a senior design project or something like that. You know, we have those connections with a lot of the Hanford contractors, but if you're an agricultural firm over in Pasco, I don't think you have that through line.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we can sometimes fall into the trap, but I don't know that we're too bad about it. But certainly don't want to fall into the trap of serving P&L and Hanford to the exclusion of the rest of the community, because there is actually a community out there. There are 3 cities in this area, plus whatever you want to call it, restaurants for the crossing. Right? And there are people that live in those cities. It's
A lot of our students have to come commute every day from the city.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know our students came from those cities. Mapton, yeah.
So that's 3 streets next to Grandview.
Yeah.
And that's given if people know where Grandview is.
Yeah.
we certainly, I think, the more that we're able to be embedded in the community, the better we can serve them. That's good. It's good to be helpful.
Really got any? I'm pretty good on questions. Dr. Do you have any closing thoughts for us and our students?
I will say, I am not able to endorse anyone.
Right.
I do appreciate you guys for inviting me, but I am purely apolitical, non-political in this capacity. It's a neat concept though, neat idea. Are you speaking to anybody else? You want recommendations on who else to talk to?
If you have any recommendations after today.
Who are you going to talk to?
I was hoping to get Dr. Peters.
That would be perfect. She's the instructional excellence person, so when anyone's teaching badly, it's her fault. No, I'm kidding. No, but certainly if there are approaches on campus that maybe you've heard of at MIT or somewhere, or these really evidence-based pedagogies, she'd be the person to talk to about getting faculty trained in those, getting support for faculty to actually deploy these in the classes. And there's talk of there being money for faculty to get in the summer to maybe just improve an existing course as opposed to, doing something else, right? Because if I wanted to make, say, my linear algebra course better than it is now, I either have to work in the middle of the semester when I'm already so busy to do that, or take time out in the summer when I'm not getting paid to do that. And I will do that. I don't need to be paid for everything. But if I need to make money to live, or I haven't have enough saved up for the rest of the semester, that I need to do something else to get paid to do that. So that linear algebra course, once I've developed it once, might only see minor improvements, right? It certainly won't get a total redesign outside of dedicated time and resources to that redesign. So there's been talk of making programs for faculty to, here's a month's worth of salary, and all we want you to do is incorporate these brand new evidence-based pedagogies into your course so that the students benefit from it. Because I'm sure you've seen courses where you're like, these slides look like they were written in 1993.
Yep.
And the reason for that is because the faculty are so busy, they've got very little incentive to update those slides outside of minor tweaks because they've got so much else going on. And so if we can, work with instructional excellence and Dr. Peters to give them some support to get that work done, then the student outcomes will improve. That's the notion. So any student involvement in instructional excellence or giving faculty money to do a better job would not be frowned upon in my view. Once again, with the caveat that it might not even be doable, compliant, there's all sorts of rules.
There's a lot of bureaucracy that goes into everything.
Yeah, and I understand that. So I'm just spitballing, blue sky thinking, hopefully not saying anything that will offend any of my bosses or any of my colleagues.
We will definitely make sure to have like a not harshly blinking, take this all with a grain of salt indicator.
Yeah.
Grain of salt.
Grain of salt.
Yeah.
Don't take this too seriously.
I'm just spitballing. Yeah. All right.
See y'all later. I also think it would be cool to just have these fireside
Yeah.
chats with
Fireside.
faculty in general.
Fire.